welcome back to the Unbiased Opinion, where everyone's opinion is biased except ours. I'm Colin.
I'm Craig.
There's that other Jamoke.
And I'm Greg.
Oh, okay. In this episode, we're gonna be talking about the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Something I think we've been wanting to talk about for a while, but we never got to. And I know you two are big Lord of the Rings fans. Like you know all the lore and the books and all that stuff.
We've actually read them.
Yes. I read the first one, the Fellowship of the Ring, in eighth grade. So you know. Anyway, um, Craig, do you want to start us off?
I guess we'll start off with the Fellowship of the Ring, the
Yes,
first one.
yes. Of course.
Wait, can I just can
No.
Craig do a synopsis of all of them?
Oh no. I'm going to assume that all the 10 people that listen to this, or at least are familiar with the Lord of the Rings and whatnot. You know, it's not like we're talking about some obscure movies like I Girlfriend and Expelled. I assume people know the basic premise.
Well, I'm still going to give a synopsis.
All right, fine.
So the first one starts out with the Battle of the Last Alliance, kind of detailing how the story, like backstory of the second Dark Lord Sauron and the story of the ring, how they took it, how it got lost, was hidden for thousands of years. Then they came upon Bilbo, and from Bilbo, it's in the Shire. Then we start with the Bilbo's birthday. He leaves, gives the ring to Frodo. Gandalf realizes what the ring is, and then that we have to get out of the Shire and do something about it. So they leave the Shire. Some friends tag along, and they get to Rivendell, home of one of the most powerful elves in the Third Age, Elrond. They agree to destroy it, and they make their way south with a whole new ragtag group of friends. And along the way, they lose Boromir, and then they all go their separate ways, but still trying to destroy the ring.
That
I said it
sounds
was going to
pretty
be brief.
sounds pretty good. That sounds pretty good to sum up the first movie. So I assume we're going to be talking about the extended edition.
Well, of course, I haven't seen the theatrical in a long time.
Well, I rewatched the trilogy last May. For reference, it's March right now, and the first one always was my favorite one of the trilogy, and it's probably because I've seen it the most. The second one was always the least one I watched, and third one. But I think what I like most about the first one is the actual fellowship. I always liked, the start of the journey and the stuff with the Shire too in the beginning. I don't know. I just always liked the first one a lot, especially when they're also in the Mines of Moria. I always liked that stuff. Not trying to be a
Well,
contrarian by liking the first one the most, but I've always
I feel
liked
like
it.
everybody has their favorite, but I always feel like the first one was always, I think, the easiest to kind of get into and ease into the story. Like how you get introduced to the back, like, the quick lore about the ring. They don't like, it's kind of long, but it's very concise to give you the basic, plot points and whatnot. Then you get the comfy introduction to the Shire, seeing Gandalf and the hobbits and Bilbo's 111th birthday party. Like it makes you, I guess, comfy, and it's a nice world to get yourself into, invested in.
Yeah, no, I agree. But like Colin, like were you saying like seeing the whole fellowship together, especially considering like they casted everyone so well, and like there's chemistry with like obviously they're all when you get into the next by the end of this one and to the other ones they kind of group off, but the chemistry between all of them too like was great. So it was always nice seeing all of them together. It wasn't like insufferable duos like Hobbs and Shaw, like where people are bantering and they're trying to make the chemistry there. It was like all the characters fit perfectly together. So, but yeah, the first one, I kind of like all of them equally in their own way. I'm not, but I thought it was a nice introduction. It didn't take too long to get into the journey because it easily could have, especially like you were saying, Craig, like it is the back was kind of long, but they did such a good job of narrowing it down, considering with all the backlore the books have to offer. So, But
Well, like especially too, like after they leave the Shire, like in the books, there's like several chapters dedicated to them leaving the Shire and then getting to Bree and then to Rivendell, which they did cut out of the movie, which I can, I guess you kind of understand because it's not entirely necessary. Like Tom Bombadil and like this whole plot of like Bill or Frodo selling his house so no one knows that he's leaving the Shire, which they completely just get rid of.
Well, no,
He
and
just ups and
also,
leaves.
don't mean to interrupt, but like in terms of differences from the book and the movie they made it more urgent. Where isn't there? There's like a 30 year or like 18 year gap
Yeah, it was
before like
17
Gandalf.
years.
Yeah, Gandalf goes away for 17 years and he shows back up. But the movie makes it definitely more urgent. Where it's probably like a month, I imagine, for Gandalf traveling. Like it's nowhere near as long as it is in the movie, or
Yeah, because in
the
the
book.
yeah, 'cause in the book Gandalf, he doesn't know that it's the One Ring because the other, I guess, rings of power are a little more decorative. This is just like a gold band ring, so he thought maybe it wasn't a big deal. But then he searches for Gollum, goes into Gondor. I mean, this isn't that important, but he was busy in those 17 years.
Yeah, just like when you're trying to tell them, you're trying to it is have a movie screenplay. You definitely don't have as much time to dedicate as you do in a book. You have to make those changes and whatnot.
yeah,
Yeah,
I feel like it'd be weird, like if you went to watch the movie and it's like, oh, Gandalf spends his time with the hobbits and everything, and then boom, he's gone. It's like, oh, 17 years later, like as a movie, like in terms of like a movie and like seeing it, it would be a little almost like you're saying, like weird, like, oh, so much time passed, and if you don't read the books, it's kind of like, why? But,
because I will say, I mean, I know there's purists out there, but I do think most of the changes were for the better. I mean, we'll get some more like changes I didn't like, and Peter Jackson has there were some terrible decisions he almost made, but someone thankfully stopped him. But I think
For this
most of the
trilogy
changes,
or the next one?
more so the next two, but this one,
This
but
one's
yeah,
the most faithful, to my
yeah.
understanding, to the source material.
I mean, it is the first one, like, because every change you make, it carries over to the next one.
Well, yeah, but
But there's so much good.
yeah, like we said, don't want to rehash it too much. But the Fellowship of the Ring, it was a good way of maybe even condensing such a vast and maybe supple amount of lore that you don't want to, give your audience sensory overload with all this information and backstory. It
yeah.
kind of streamlined it, to my understanding.
And even then, too, like the movies are still pretty long. Like theatrical, I think is 3 hours. I mean, this is the shortest one, and
one
they still managed
hundred
to,
and 78 minutes, the theatrical.
yeah, let's go 3 hours. But still,
Definitely
they managed to
disagree.
condense all this into 3 hours. And this is longer than most movies, even at the time. Like, I think movies are getting a little longer now, but I think at the time that was still like really long. They still managed to condense so much and make it. I think the most important thing is they made it work too. Like, they didn't just condense it; and it was horrible. Like, they made it work.
Yeah.
That's the best part.
Especially too, like you talk about condensing it, like obviously the extended version's like another hour, but um especially like with like the Fellowship, they didn't sideline anyone, like like obviously when you're going through the book and you can cut out a lot, they still were able to balance everyone out and give everyone dialogue, meaningful dialogue, equal screen time and everything. Like obviously there's certain characters as you go along, it's going to focus on more, but they still were able to give everyone fair share in the screen time, and it worked.
Yeah, because I feel like, I mean, he's the shortest, not the shortest, but like the least amount of time in the Fellowship. Like Boromir, he doesn't obviously have much to do in the books because he kind of gets introduced at the Council of Elrond, then dies not long later. But they gave him some nice scenes, like teaching the hobbits how to fight, and trying to give him at least some screen time, so you at least kind of care about him before he dies.
Yeah, it's
You
not like
understand
just
his struggle
some schmuck that they just show up and he just dies.
immediately.
I guess we should talk about maybe some of the differences between the theatrical and extended.
See, I don't remember all of them because I've only seen the extended.
Huh. Well, I know I know in the theatrical cut the sword that belongs to Aragorn's ancestor that was not in. That's in the extended cut, but that was not in the theatrical. I know that for a fact. At least I think so.
Because now that you mentioned, there was one scene where he sings the lay of Baron and Luthien, which isn't really that important to the movie, but I guess for the lore, it's a bit more important because his, love story and Arwen's kind of parallels Baron and Luthien. But obviously, that's why they cut it because no one would really understand that reference.
Yeah, you lost me.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
Is there anything else you want to say about the Fellowship of the Ring?
I mean, there's so much.
Well, continue.
Well, I guess once they leave the Shire, like the Nazgul, I think they were, intimidating villains, especially for the four hobbits who really couldn't do anything.
Are
Like
they
their
like that in the
screech was,
book? Like they screech too? Are they like that in the book?
not really. In the book, they were trying to be more secretive because they didn't want people to know that they were searching for the ring or what they really were, because then that would alert more people to their presence and their whereabouts.
Right. So I think
But for the movie, it
I've seen
works.
some, maybe you call them purists, where they think that Merry and Pippin, especially in this movie, are definitely a little bit more over the top, I guess you can say, especially with their little
Yeah.
shenanigans in the beginning. But then again, you could say that, through the trilogy, they really matured. So I guess that was probably Jackson's intention of, maybe making them a little more goofier and talking about like
Well,
second breakfast and all that stuff.
yeah, I mean, especially more so like Mary, because he was supposed to be one of the smarter ones. Maybe
In
a
the,
little goofy, but
in the book? Really?
yeah, like when they were in Rivendell, he was like looking up maps to kind of plan out their route so he'd know where to go and not get lost. And he was one kind of like planning things too in the book that they don't really have in the movie.
Yeah, they're both kind of. I mean, Pippin's definitely the goofiest out of all out of all the hobbits.
I know.
Man,
I oh, go ahead.
no,
Sorry.
no, 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 no. You go.
I was gonna so say. I think the age. I know Frodo. I think in the books was a bit older.
He's
Like
like in
when
his
he's.
50s, I think.
I think he was like
Yeah.
exactly 50. Like when they went on their journey. Like he was. There was a bit of an age gap between him, Merry, Pippin, and also like. I know in the books they didn't really, or in the movies they didn't really like establish it. They kind of made um, Sam and Frodo were kind of like there wasn't really like a class difference between them, but I know like there was in the books. Like there's more of like
He was
a
just a
distinction
gardener,
between them.
right? He was like a gardener in the book.
Yeah,
But
he worked for Frodo and Bilbo.
yeah, but what it wasn't like Frodo. Like there was a bit of like a class distinction between them, Craig.
Well, yeah, like funny, all of them in the Fellowship are like, like the aristocracy except for Sam, because even Merry and Pippin are like considered like the elite in the among hobbits.
Really?
Yeah,
Well,
because Pippin's the son
that's
of the
because of their
Thing.
ancestors. Yeah,
Yeah, and Mary's but like next in line to be the master of Buckland, and
And
Frodo's just wealthy. I mean, nothing as important, but he's
well,
wealthy.
yeah, because isn't like not Sam like Frodo? Aren't all three of them, the Mary, Pippin, and Frodo, like they're descendants of the famous one? Was it Borun Took? Like
Yeah,
they're
the
all
old
some.
Took.
Yeah, and he's like the most famed Hobbit.
Fool of a took.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're all like second cousins or something. And there's Sam, poor old Sam.
Hey, even Tolkien realized when he was writing the books, Sam was the real hero of the story.
The backbone.
Was he like that in the book? Where? Oh yeah, you just kind of alluded to that he was
Yeah,
like the
and
real hero.
their relationship, and also too like the movie's relation, like Sam and Frodo's relationship wasn't really any different. Like as the story went on, like their relationship, their bond grew. So like their friendship wasn't any different. It was just there's more of like a class distinction between them in the Shire.
Yeah, I guess that's why it makes sense in the book. He'd always call him Mr. Frodo. That's something the
Uh,
club would say.
Because I mean, he did work for him.
yeah, peasant.
Although I think in the movie, I guess they made Frodo seem a little younger and Sam seemed a little older when it was the opposite. Frodo was the older one.
Well,
Not that I
Elijah
guess is
Wood
that big
was
of a
also
deal.
like not even 20 when they were filming the movies. He was like the
Yeah.
youngest.
Yeah, those are little differences that don't, they're fine like those edits. But So
I
if we're
think
talking on like
I
differences.
think another thing that I would see the Tolkien fanboys really hate is that they say Frodo is like a wimp in the first movie, where he like when he's against the Nazgul, he just like drops his sword, kind of. Maybe the argument can be made that the Tolkien people think that Frodo's too vulnerable, you know, in the
Well, it's
in the
kind of like so
movie.
in the books, like the first book, which is their journey to Rivendell, the hobbits were constantly needing help because they really had no idea what they were doing. And when Frodo gets stabbed, he kind of like tries to attack the Witch King, and then the Witch King stabs him. That's why he missed.
Ah,
So it's a little different. I mean, he obviously just drops the sword, but the thing is, the Nazgul are like their main weapon is fear. Like that's what they always like, kind of like always tell you in the book. Like they're supposed to be scary. Like they're really not that powerful on their own. It's just they use fear to kind of beat you. So like him dropping the sword isn't really the worst thing. Just obviously you kind of want to see him at least be a little more on the offensive.
yeah. Is there anything else for the Fellowship of the Ring?
You want to move on. I mean, but there's so much like just for the fact, I guess you can even talk about like the special effects, how they tried so hard to at least make the characters look their size.
Oh yeah, like I mean, it didn't win an Academy Award for nothing. Whereas like it was a lot of clever techniques they used, as everyone knows. For some of the scenes, they used forced perspective with Frodo and Gandalf because Ian McKellen as Gandalf, he is like under 6 feet tall, and like as a kid watching it, you always thought he was so tall and massive. He's just a regular sized fella, you know.
Yeah, because like the shot when both Gandalf and Frodo sit in the wagon, you have them sitting next to each other, but it looks like Frodo's the size of a hobbit and Gandalf's the size of like an adult.
Yeah, it's all
Just
forced perspective, or they use an actual midget as a stand-in for some of the shots.
well, yeah, like like they have scale doubles for people,
Yeah, it's all pretty clever things to do. I mean, nowadays everything would just be like egregious CGI.
or they wouldn't even care. Because I mean,
I mean, and they did do that. They did use a lot of blue screen, and they matched the camera movements. But then again, you have to remember this was 20 years ago when they were doing this. It's
I
not
just like
as it's not
the
as
effort they put
easy.
in. Yeah. Again, a great attention to detail that they always had for again the scales and even like the special effects. They still look good now. Like people are still making fun of like wasn't Batman vs Superman how bad Doomsday looked, that the cave troll looked better.
Yeah, it's really like it's crazy how these movies, especially like on all forms, it just holds up with the storytelling and even the visuals too. It's that's crazy. And that's just pathetic on movies nowadays. That like even The Hobbit too. Those movies don't really hold up too well compared, especially with the VFX compared to these.
We'll get to those later.
Oh well, yeah,
But also too like they use a lot of like makeup too to kind of like because I knew they couldn't use like CGI orcs. Everyone like all those like just makeup and stuff for all the orcs looked very good.
and a lot of
Wait,
it was.
are
Oh
you telling me that there was someone actually like a 20-foot cave troll?
Yeah, really dedicated to his craft.
They piled on three guys on top of their shoulders.
Should we move on to the two towers?
No, I have more to say.
Then go, go.
Well, another thing too, like I
Fly, you
guess talk
fool.
about differences between the books and the movies was definitely there was more Saruman, which was not in the books.
Did they
He
have a
kind of
wizard
appeared.
fight in the book?
No, that was kind of dumb, but
Yeah, I always
oh,
thought that
yeah,
was
he was
kind of
not.
silly, where it looked like they're using the force to like throw each other around.
Yeah, like it's not like usually when they use magic, it was really just like through their speech. It wasn't really like they were like throwing like
Like
whacking people
when
from
he
like a
summoned that when they're in the snow on Saruman.
Stratos.
Yeah, he was like shouting, and he summoned a lightning bolt to hit to try to like trap them.
Yeah, because that's a scene I guess people don't like because in the book the mountain was kind of evil and hated travelers, and that was the mountain just trying to screw with them. Well, in the
That's kind of
movies,
silly.
yeah. So this is a change in my mind, like having Saruman be a little more active threat, trying to force them. through the gap of Rohan or go through Moria, stuff like that. Or I guess one thing I don't know why they made this change, but in the book, when Saruman and Gandalf meets him, he doesn't call himself Saruman the White anymore. He calls himself Saruman of many colors, and like his cloak is like if you look at it, it's almost like looking like through a prism where it's like constantly changing colors.
In the book?
Yeah, in the book, it's just he's got his white stuff, his white cloak or whatever.
Huh. How did Gandalf never know that Saruman is evil? I mean, has he seen his castle? Does that look like the kind of place a decent person would live at?
But he didn't build it though.
Yeah, but still, I mean, if you saw someone living in something like that, you'd be like, I don't know about this guy.
Well, that was built by the ancient Numenorians like thousands of years ago.
Orthonac, right?
Yeah. Although he did suspect Saruman because that's not that important though. But yeah, I do like they had more Saruman because a lot of his scenes were great. Like, do you know how the first orc came into being?
And did
It
Gandalf ever?
helps.
Did he ever summon I'm assuming he never got an eagle when he was at the top of the tower. I'm assuming that didn't happen in the book either.
No, so Saruman sent Radagast to go look for Gandalf, and then Radagast wanted to send a message to Gandalf because he knew he'd be at Orthanc, so he sent the Gwahir the Eagle to go tell Gandalf, but then he saw Gandalf was captured and rescued him.
Oh, so Gandalf does get captured by Saruman.
Yeah, he does.
Oh, okay. Just they didn't have a wizard fight.
No.
Okay.
That's also a big difference that they cut out of these movies was Radagast, even though they have him in The Hobbit.
Yeah, it's funny. Like they flip-flopped or
Yeah.
vice
Oh, he's not
versa.
in the Hobbit.
No.
No, no, no. Yeah, no. Like I was saying that they have Radagast. Yeah, like you're saying they flipped him.
All right, let's not get too off topic with the Hobbit then. I'll have
But
its
no,
own
I mean,
episode.
but the fact that like Radagast was he was a relatively important part, like in the story, like a side character more, like, but he still had an important part in the Lord of the Rings, but they like cut him.
Yeah, like you can't like a movie, especially. I mean, I know the book is like 300 something pages.
Each
And
one.
yeah,
No.
each book can take its time with characters and
Yeah,
whatnot. You know, in a movie you only have so much time.
yeah, but like it just in terms of like difference between book and this, like I mean, like to not have Radagast, but then to put him in the Hobbit trilogy was pretty. It was like funny.
And also,
Like,
the ending of this movie is actually from the beginning of the Two Towers in the book.
Yeah,
It'd
that's
be
a
weird.
change I do like.
Yeah, you want it to feel conclusive, like there's a beginning and the end. It'd be kind of weird if the movie ends like right before he dies.
Well, because like in the Fellowship of the Ring, I think the book ends like Frodo leaves, but like I think it ends before that they even fight the orcs. Like it just kind of ends. Like there's no real like ending it because when it was written, it's supposed to be like one story, so it kind of just ends. But I definitely think this is a better change of ending right before the fight and after the fight to set up the next movie.
yeah, especially like how they were able to send each of them off into their own groups and everything, and like to really, it was a good way to set up the second one.
Yeah, like the two hobbits get stolen. Sam and Fred, or not Sam and Fred, Sam and Frodo. They go on their little journey, and then don't Legolas and all of them. They go after the hobbits, right?
Yeah,
And Mary
Yeah,
goes in.
well, yeah, Mary, well, because that's Boromir gets killed by the main Urukai, I forget his name, and then Aragon fights him. He
Aragorn.
kills him, which actually is a cool side note. Like I learned, like I was like watching stuff on behind the scenes, and like the part where like Aragon stabs the Urukai in the leg, and he like tosses Aragon back, and like he pulls the knife out of his leg and like like licks the blood, and then he throws it at Aragon. Apparently,
Aragorn.
because Aragorn, I hate
Continue.
you. But um and when he throws it and you see Aragorn deflect it with his sword, that was real because the turns out the actor, because they were in makeup, he couldn't see really well. So when he was supposed to throw it off kilter a bit so Aragorn could easily deflect it, but he actually aimed the knife, actually threw it right at his head. And I think So that was Viggo Mortensen's actual like sword training coming in handy to deflect it. I just thought that was like a cool like side note. But yeah, because then Aragorn kills him, and then Aragorn actually he sends Frodo off because he realizes like the ring is way too powerful for any of them. Like they'll all get any
It's too
each of them would
tempting.
get they would get corrupted by it. So he sends him off, and then they go look for Merry and Pippin, and then that's still like but at the ending that's like why I really love these movies too, like the heart behind it, where Frodo's going off by himself and Sam comes running after him, and then like he drowns because he's like drowning because he can't swim, and then Frodo pulls him off, pulls him onto the boat, and Sam's like, I made a promise, Mr. Frodo, I don't intend to break it. Like I always love like the heart to heart moments like him and Sam had. But yeah,
Yeah,
that
they're
like that
always like the
ending.
best.
Yeah, that's where you see like Sam truly was the heart of it all.
I do want to say, like, when you mentioned like how the actor for Aragorn, like he actually deflected. That's another thing too. Like the actors definitely put in an effort to try to be, at least have the kind of almost like the skills of like they would have if they were like they actually the character, like being able to fight and deflect swords and stuff.
Yeah, like that for me, I appreciate a lot. Like when actors actually put heart and thought behind it. It's clearly not just like a paycheck for them. Like they actually are
Yeah,
study the
they're not
characters
phoning
and
it in
yeah.
like Bruce Willis or someone like that.
Especially you got to give the Gimli actor props since he shrunk. I mean, it's impressive, man. Not many people can do
Well,
that.
he was allergic to the prosthetics they put on his face, so he couldn't see half the time.
Yeah, I think he has like the most scenes on his knees because he's a dwarf, and I think he said he was the tallest one there.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
That was the thing too, like, when you look at the world, how they definitely, all the actors, like their costumes looked convincing. Like, bit of a spoiler, but like the new Amazon show that's coming out, the costumes to me don't look convincing, but these look convincing. Like they're dirty, they're ripped, they're not perfect. I think it definitely kind of sells you that these people are adventurers and
It makes you feel like they're real people, these movies, and it's a real world that you are a part of. And that's what probably makes the
Yeah.
third one so bittersweet at the end is which we'll get to. We'll save that thought for the third movie when we get to it.
But I just want to say on like the Fellowship and like just I guess as an overview. I don't want to I'm not going into the other movies, but that's like what obviously this is I would say at least for you and me, Craig, like this is our favorite trilogy um of all
don't
time.
speak for me. I'm
Okay.
just kidding. Yeah, it is.
But and it's not just like obviously the books and the fantasy genre and obviously the awesome battle scenes they have in all of these,
Don't forget the
but
music, the
all
soundtrack, the music.
that too. But and the acting, but also too because these movies they could have easily not really they could have been easy like they could have easily put them as generic action adventure movies, but they actually took time and gave them heart. Like there's actually like the scene, for example, like with Sam and Fro, like there's those continuous scenes that it gives the movie constant heart and reminder to like, hey, these are real people and stuff. Like that's what I love honestly like the most about it. I mean, I love everything, but there's clearly a heart to this, which I obviously now with all the movies today, it seems there clearly seems to be lacking.
Guess to piggyback off that too, like this movie had like almost 3 years of pre-production, which I think is going to be unheard of in like today's time. Like especially for like a big, blockbuster movie. Like they don't really get much pre-production. It's like an assembly line. You gotta, get it, crank it up because we got to get that May or whatever release date. But this had 3 years of pre-production. It clearly shows all the thought they put into like the characters, the costumes, the world, the story, the writing. I mean, it definitely shows, and that's why it's remembered as one of the best trilogies. It's gonna be remembered as the best trilogies of all time.
But I think also too, like with the actors, like I saw like all their final, watching the videos, like all their final days on set, like they all, it was like very emotional and stuff. But I think also too, a lot of them got like a tattoo. I forget what the tattoo was. I think it might have been like the number 9 or something like that. Something very meaningful to the books. Like it was into the story. Like it's cool. Like like where the actors are like they're invested as much as like the fan is.
In case you were wondering, the entire trilogy was shot in 438 days. Yeah.
It's pretty good, right? I
From
mean, for three movies.
they started on October 11th, 1999, and the main principal photography ended on December 22nd of 2000. And then from 2001 to 2003 they continued to do pickup shots and stuff like that. Which is
Impressive.
insane. That is insane.
Yo, wow.
So I
I do
guess
want to say,
oh yeah, continue, Craig.
I think my favorite scenes in the book or the movie were obviously the beginning because I love the Shire stuff.
Oh yeah, the Shire stuff is great.
Like you really just want to be pulled in and live there. Just be a simple farmer.
Away from this miserable world we all live in.
and 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 that
Yes.
also too, like piggybacking off of that, and like Colin, what you said before, like especially the music, especially in the Shire scene, was phenomenal. I always love that soundtrack.
I mean, there's so many. Like
It
you've
makes you
got the
think of
Shire.
simple times, you know.
Yeah, like you got like the Shire. You've got the
Yeah.
Ring. You've got Gondor. You got Ro. Like, there's so much. Like that's like the music is otherworldly. Like some people they think like Star Wars is the best, but to me, this is the best.
Oh yeah, hundred
How
percent.
how dare you?
How do I?
I would think Star Wars is ranked a little bit higher, but George Lucas himself said he may have gone too far in a few places. But other than that, yeah.
Do you have any more thoughts on the Fellowship of the Ring?
Well, I guess I'll go into stuff I didn't like as much,
Yes.
which isn't much, but I feel like for Boromir, I do like they gave him more scenes, but at the same time, you really can't call it foreshadowing his betrayal when you kind of beat it your head over beat the audience over the head with the fact he's going to betray them.
Well, yeah,
Like,
because like
with
the couple scenes where he'd look at the ring or something and be hesitant about giving it back.
yeah, like I mean, it's you can't again. It makes it a little too obvious that he's going to betray the Fellowship. Because I feel like when you read the book, you don't really get that sense. I mean, he's he says like I'll help you, but I'm only on this journey to get back to my home. I'll help you as far as I can go. He didn't like he wanted the ring, sure, but he was never like going to take it by force. And in the book, it's in the movie, it's like, oh, he's going to betray you. I didn't like that as much. The other stuff I really didn't like was Arwen. I don't like any of her scenes.
Was she not in in the first one book?
She's not really in the trilogy at all.
Oh, yeah, because
Because
I
I
know
mean,
doesn't Frodo when he's on the horse riding away, he's by himself, away from the cloaked dark
well,
fellows.
from the Nazgul, but that
Yeah.
part, well, it's partially true. Like an elf does come, but it's Glorfindel. I understand, he's a minor character too. So like, if you had Legolas, I feel like that scene would have been fine. But like having Arwen, I don't know, it doesn't do it for me. Because I guess they want to have her in the movies and whatnot. 'Cause I guess wasn't she a big actress at the time?
She's the son of Steven Tyler, or the daughter of Steven Tyler. So
But I don't know, I didn't care for her scenes. I guess to kind of justify the love story. But I feel like you didn't really need to give her all these like action scenes. Because in the book,
it was only
poor
like
Mary,
one though. It was only her riding away.
Yeah,
well,
it
they
was
wanted
the
more.
chase scene, right?
What?
Yeah, I think her only action scene was the chase scene where then she called, like summoned the river on them.
Oh, but they wanted more action scenes with her.
Well, they didn't get it, did they?
Well, yeah, because someone's told Peter Jackson like, stop it. That's a bad idea.
Yeah, you gotta hone in on the fellowship.
You
I
see
feel like
that?
that scene would.
Yeah,
We're
go,
gonna
go,
say.
go. No, 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 no.
I feel like that scene would work better if like maybe Legolas came to introduce him a little earlier. He's going to be a member of the Fellowship, have him at least helping out early on instead of having Arwen, who's not going to really do anything for the rest of the trilogy except like mope and whatnot.
Yeah, that's fair.
I didn't really like much of her scenes.
To a casual viewer like myself, I didn't mind Arwen because I don't really know the books too well at all, so didn't really
I
bother
mean,
me.
again, I feel like yeah, you're right. I feel like it works in the movie, but I feel like when it comes to an adaptation, it doesn't work.
Oh well, yeah, a little unfaithful right there. Is there anything else that you didn't like?
Just like more minor things. Like I feel like Elrond's a little too mean towards humans, considering the fact he's half human. But again, that's more like nitpicking.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, because he's like, oh yeah, humans are awful, they're weak, but like, you're half human too, you know. And he was never that mean in the book either.
I don't know. I guess they want that little tension.
Yeah, because he doesn't want his daughter to be married to a filthy human. But in the book, it wasn't. He was more saying, if you want my daughter, you have to reclaim the become the king. So he did want to become king from the outset. There wasn't like this reluctance, but I feel like it works in the movie.
Yeah,
So again, I know people might not like that. But yeah, I feel like it works for the movie.
yeah.
Yeah, like we said, it's an adaptation. It's not going to be a literal, scene for scene or chapter for chapter for an adaptation. That's just insane.
I understand that, but that's some things I like the Arwen stuff. I just even as a movie, I don't particularly like. But I feel like her scenes could have been for Legolas, someone who's going to be in the trilogy more. Give him some more screen time.
Fair enough. I guess. Daniel, you have anything? Anything you liked or didn't like?
Um,
Complaints?
I don't really have any complaints. I thought one of my like obviously we talked about the ending scene between Frodo and Sam, but I mean like I did love the fight scenes that they had in it, especially the fight in the mines with the cave troll and the fight with the end at the Uruk-hai, especially Aragorn versus the leader one. But other than that, no, I don't have really any like I don't have any complaints on it.
I'm just
One more
thinking.
thing.
Oh, yeah, go, Craig.
I was gonna say like the Moria, like the whole Moria stuff is my favorite. I guess the build up, they fight the Watcher in the water. They have to, they get to like sneak through Moria to not alert anything.
I know in the books, though, it was like a month journey, right? Because it's like a long time they're in Moria for.
No, it was supposed to be. It was like a week.
Oh. So I know in the movie
It's,
there's like a throwaway line where it says like this is a week journey. I do know I remember that in the movie. But in the movie it doesn't feel like it's a week.
one of the extended scenes is just them, like just a day of them just like eating and sleeping.
It says a lot in the book. I remember they talk about we wake up, we eat, and just walk.
Yeah, that's a lot of like that. Yeah,
Sounds depressing.
well, it's a lot of the stuff that gets cut out from like the one of the main things. It's even in the Hobbit. Not to go too much there, but like a lot of their journey
So don't go
is
there.
literally oh, but like to like the point like where they in the movie they kind of covered up with dialogue or, but like in the Hobbit, like a lot of the journey is just them like Tolkien describing the landscape and like you're literally it's like Bilbo's just like caught in like awe of like the atmosphere and stuff. It's just a lot of description of the which I'll give Tolkien credit for being very specific and like how creative he is in that. But like for a movie, like you can cut that out.
Yeah, again, that's the lore, but I mean, I feel like for a movie where you're kind of like, it's already super long and you're trying to like cut it down, like you don't need to every like how Bree works or, you know, the details of like the dwarf language works or something. It's cool for the book, but I guess not necessary for the movie.
Yeah.
I was going to say one of our last few thoughts on the Fellowship of the Ring. We got to wrap it up. But I was thinking, Craig, that maybe the extended cut has more Arwen, because I don't think she's in the theatrical cut that much at all, besides that one scene. And then she talks with Aragorn for a little bit, and they're
I
looking
mean,
for like the thing to counteract Frodo's poisoning.
well, yeah, I guess for the Fellowship, she's not into much, but she's in it, I guess, slightly more in the second and third one, which I guess spoiler, I don't like those scenes either.
I'm just
Yeah,
thinking,
again,
like maybe the extended cut has more Arwen in it in the Fellowship of the Ring. I don't know,
I don't
but
think so.
I do know she's not in it a lot in the first one. That's a fact. All right, I guess let's segue into the the two towers,
Unfortunate name.
especially the time it came out. Came out like a year after 9/11. And I think I read somewhere that they actually consider changing the title because of 9/11. And even I read that the speech that Sam gives about like there's still good in the world, that was like inspired like as a inspired by 9/11. I
It's
read
in the
that they
book though, for the most part.
is it maybe some of the wording they changed. I did read that some of that was I guess to be uplifting after 9/11 and whatnot. But enough about 9/11. Like I said when we were talking about the Fellowship of the Ring, this is the one that I've always seen the least. I've probably only seen it like in its entirety like 3 times.
Oof.
Yeah, not because I didn't like it. I just for some reason I I always liked the first and the third one, the first the most, but the second one I just never really cared for. But when I rewatched it last year, I really did enjoy a lot of it. Kind of forgot all the stuff that happens in it, like the two hobbits going off with the tree people, not the tree people, the
The Ents.
yeah those guys.
It has some of my absolute favorite scenes in it.
Of course, the Battle of Helm's Deep.
Oh yeah,
Except we're gonna talk about later about differences, but there's no elves, I think, right? In the Battle of Helm's Deep.
I was going to get to that later because that's
Okay, yeah, we'll get to that later.
but like you were saying, like I guess I think it's just like it's the product of being like it's kind of like in the middle of the story. Like there's no real definitive an end. It kind of just is continuing the story. So I guess that can make it harder for some people to get into it as like its own movie. Not that there aren't good scenes, but this is written as one big story chopped up in 3 pieces. So this is just like the middle part.
And obviously, as we'll get to later, a lot of this is where it just started to become really unfaithful, but not as unfaithful as the third movie.
Yeah.
So, hey, Craig, you're the Lord of the Ring expert. What did you like?
Well, a lot of stuff like we talked about the Ents.
Be
I mean, I liked.
specific.
Well, I was getting to that, like the Ents. I liked Treebeard and his slow. I mean, in the books, he was kind of like that too. He was a little not dumb, but like a little slow. Like that they carried that over. Even he talks slow, which I thought was a nice change. Because when you read it, you don't know how fast he talks, but I like that he talks kind of slow.
yeah.
But that was a nice change.
I loved his banter with and the relationship like they developed a bit with Mary and Pippin with him. I thought they were like the perfect two.
I mean, the whole like Theoden, I thought he was a great character. You see him as this weak old man. I mean, I guess in the books he wasn't like that, but I think it was an okay change. Then he just arrives to the occasion only to realize that they're getting demolished. He has to deal with the death of his son, which was a sad scene, especially as you get older.
And
I guess in
also
the book.
the was that guy's name Wormtongue?
Oh,
Greamer Wormtongue.
Yeah, that creepy guy.
I thought he was like perfect. He's
Just,
so awful.
his name too, Greamer Wormtongue.
Well, it's Grima.
Greamer.
I still never seen he was great. Like he's just like for like when Aemir goes like, "Oh, your people are being slaughtered by Saruman." Why do you put such mean things on his mind? He's weak, he's frail. Don't torment him with
He's
these
so
things.
manipulative.
Yeah, that was one of my like, especially when Gandalf shows up at Rohan to free Theoden under out from under Sauron's spell. Um, I love how he just was not putting up with Grima. Like he was like, what do you say? He's like, still your forked tongue. I did not pass through fire and death to bandy created words with a
A wicked worm.
yeah. I always loved how Gandalf just immediately was not putting up with him, or Gimli at the end, like when they try to send out the goons to stop Gandalf, and like Legolas, Gimli, and Aragorn are just beating them up, and then Gimli like puts his axe to his throat. I would stay still if I were you. I always love that scene.
Not a lot of scenes, but I think Grima was just perfect. The way he talked and delivered. Why? Why torture the king with this? Or like when Gandalf comes, and then the Green was trying to talk for him.
Oh yeah.
Just that he talks, he's such like a snake, but it's, good for the character he's playing.
Or what was it? Agreement like put the question in Theoden's ear, and then Theoden asked it, and then Grima goes, "A wise question, my liege." He played that part perfectly. But
Like
that too,
when
like when Gandalf released him of the spell, like that was always a cool scene. And or like when
talking to me.
or when the guard was like, "Oh, and your staff," and Gandalf's like, "He would not part an old man from his staff." And the guy's like, "All right," and then he looks at Aragorn like winks. But of course, Gandalf comes back in this one. You know, um,
Much to
but
George R. R. Martin's annoyance.
what happened with him?
Oh, he's the guy who made Game of Thrones. He's like, Gandalf should have stayed dead. It's stupid that he came back in. For someone who claims to be a fan of Tolkien, I don't think he understands anything that he wrote. But that's not what this episode's about.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about that obese monster.
The dragons are coming. Don't worry.
We haven't talked about Gollum yet, who is
Well,
front and center in the
yeah, he
story.
gets
He's
introduced.
great too.
Well, that's why, like, like I guess segueing, like we from the first one, like where they branch off, like obviously you have Gimli, Legolas, and Aragorn together, and Gandalf joins them for a bit and then leaves. But Sam and Frodo definitely, and then when they added Gollum, was those three were great together, especially Sam and Gollum's banter. That was some of my favorite.
In the
Yeah, when you catch
books,
them.
does Gollum, is he portrayed like how he is on the screen in the books? It's like he's like a split personality.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, he's got like the
So he's
the
supposed to be
Smeagol's
like
the
a
good
meth
one.
addict.
Yeah, the Smeagol's the good one, then Gollum's the more conniving one. Yeah, what you see in the movie is pretty good. In fact, I would say it's even better in the movie.
Really?
Yeah, I was gonna say he was like one of the characters they really didn't stray from. Like he was pretty close.
Okay,
Because I feel like
Tolkien
they did a good job
expert.
of portraying, like, he's kind of gross, but you also kind of feel bad for him because, like, in the end of the day, he's just like a victim of circumstance. Like,
That's where Frodo said the line to Sam. Now that I look at him, I understand Bilbo. Like I take pity on him.
yeah, because again, he's just this poor creature addicted to the ring, and he just can't let it go.
Yeah. Which that actually like they did such a good job where like you actually were rooting for him to become good, and he's like struggling with it throughout this movie. And then it's unfortunate like what happens.
Yeah.
But he I this was when Sam and him the Gollum or Smeagol he caught the rabbit for them and he was gonna like eat it raw and then Sam puts it in the soup and he's just like growling in misery.
It's like you're ruining it, stupid bad hobbit.
Potatoes.
Yeah, what a vile creature he is.
But like you were saying before, like how you do root for him to become good, to hopefully get some sort of redemption for all of that his struggles. For his entire life basically being like misery.
And that I mean they hinted at it, they didn't show it, but he was also tortured by Saruman. Like they didn't they hinted at it. Like you hear his scream when he was
Yeah,
in
at the beginning of the first one.
yeah, but they didn't touch on like in the books I know he was like viciously tormented for
Yeah,
like
because you
to
could
try to
see
find what the
scars on
ring
his
was.
back.
Yeah, they didn't they kind of cut that out, but he was personally tortured.
And that's the thing too, like, Sauron doesn't appear, because we haven't talked about Sauron at all, but he hasn't appeared at all in the books, except for you get one description of him, which is actually from Gollum, where he talks about how you see his black hand and like the ring missing from his finger where Isildur cut it off. It's the only description you get of Sauron.
Yeah. So I mean like he did kind of still have a form. It wasn't just a
Yeah,
big eye.
So
yeah, because he's
Sauron's not some big brute in um like this black armor. He's not like that in the book.
well, he does fight at the Battle of the Last Alliance, but Sauron was more of like a schemer. He was not really like a brute force kind of guy.
I was saying more of like he still like had like his like it's like hinted like he still has a bodily form like in the
Yeah.
books. It not like he's not just some big eye in the movies that they present him as. Like he still had his form.
To me, I feel like, worked for the movie, kind of giving like this ever present threat, watching over his lands, watching over everybody. Yeah, I guess not entirely faithful, but I feel like it worked for the movie because you don't really need to see him. Just the fact that he's always there, hovering in the background, like making you feel like at any second he could get the ring through his people.
Yeah, especially as, like when he's sending out like we get to when he sends out like the Witch King and all them. Like you don't really need the eye fits when he has all these minions doing his bidding for him.
Another villain I'd like to talk about again, we get more Sauron scenes, which again I think they're great.
Yeah, no, he did. Christopher Lee, he did a great job as Saruman. And the cool thing, I don't know if you ever saw this, Craig, but like behind the scenes, that he actually, um, we can't, I won't say it yet because it pertains to the third one, but we'll get there.
You feel
I
like
don't.
every scene that he had was great. Like
Mhm.
it was like the speech to the orcs, like this night, like Rohan will be like stained in blood because you wanted to wipe them out.
Or like he's like personally walking through like where they're birthing the orcs, like some evil like boss walking through a factory.
Inspecting his whatever they're producing.
Yeah.
It's like the CEO of Apple just watching all the workers.
And that was another thing also to touch on like with the orcs and especially the Urukai. Like when I was a kid, those things were horrifying. Like and then like you see like they pull them out like of like this like these like dirt bubbles and like
Like
rip and like
growing them.
yeah,
That was
they were
gross.
but like I give the movie credit especially like for the like aesthetics like where they really sold that. Like the Urukai they were intimidating to look at.
Also,
Now,
too, like I think just
if this was made now, they would have all been CGI'd.
well, they were the second in the Hobbit.
Yeah.
Like, I also like the
Uh,
scene where Saruman's stirring up the Dune landings to go burn down Rohan. It's like the horsemen took your lands. Rohan will burn. I don't know. Just I feel like every scene he was in was just great. Really, I guess really convincing with his evilness and almost making you just not like him. Which, not supposed to, but I think it did a good job.
yeah, but obviously we talk about the Battle of Helm's Deep, but honestly, even the battle on Isengard with the Ents, that was I remember watching it like as a kid. I was so pumped, like especially like you were saying, like Craig, where they took so much time to like like the orcs they look mean, they look evil and everything. Like when the Ents finally like charged Isengard and took it down, like I was so pumped as a kid. I was like, yes, like seeing them just trample all the orcs and everything.
I completely
Release,
destroyed the place.
release the dam.
And floods Isengard.
I also like too, like even the little detail in all the different ents. Like they made them like personable too. Like what was it? The one ent, like the one was set on fire, and like
Yeah,
when they
poor
flooded
guy.
it, he goes and he puts his head in the water to put it out.
Yeah, like a little detail they really didn't need to add, but it's nice that they added.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was nice
but
seeing the Ents get their revenge on Saruman, especially for destroying all their trees.
and also too, like this movie really gave Merry and Pippin like such a huge boost. Or like this part of the story, like they could have easily like because they're they're the comic relief like in terms like where they're when they're paired with the other characters and stuff. But like to have them like team up with Treebeard and like for them to be the like they motivated him to like put an end to like Isengard. It was such like a huge like moment for them too. Like they could have easily like but
Also, like to like Mary was definitely the adult in the situation because he was seeing like, okay, this is actually a problem. We should try to do something about it. Well, Pippin was like, oh, well, I guess we'll go home. What's the big deal? Mary was the smart one, seeing the actual threat at this post, because he's like saying, it's not going to end here. It's going to keep going and spreading if we don't try to stop it now, including burning down the Shire, which
Oh
they do
yeah.
in the books, but that they don't do in the movie.
Well, doesn't
Or,
Saruman, he disappears after that scene when they flood Isengard? Like, at least in the theatrical cut. I know he just disappears.
well,
Yeah, yeah, because in the third one they don't ever talk about his fate.
Yeah,
he never.
we'll get to
He
that
yeah
later.
he technically never left Isengard. He just wasn't in the movie after that. But and also too like oh I how could we forget the Rohirrim with our boy Carl Urban who played Bones.
Yeah, Eomer.
He was a great side character too. And that too, like I also liked uh the chase, the when they're chasing the when Aragon, Gimli and Legolas are following, they're tracking the Uruk-hai because they have Merry and Pippin, and then they run into the Rohirrim. I like the scene like where they surround them and I forget what Gimli says, but he says something smart ass to them, and then they all draw their Éomer like threatens Gimli, and then Legolas pulls out his bow and puts it right to Éomer's like head, like you would die, you would die before you draw your sword. Like it was a cool scene like that where you see him and Gimli's friendship, like you see how they're bonding and stuff throughout the
It starts to
movie.
develop.
Yeah, but the Rohirrim, they were awesome.
That's the thing though, like in the books, Eomer does do more. Like he's not sent off. He's actually there at Helm's Deep fighting side by side. He was actually fighting, I think, with Gimli when they got separated. So you wish more of Eomer because I think he's a good character.
And like yeah, like I know like how he was more sidelined, like he left and came back, and like obviously you could change that, like if he was in the battle more, but I still think like him showing up with like it was a fine change because they pulled it off beautifully when Gandalf shows up at Helm's Deep with the Rohirrim.
Yeah, Eomer.
That's such an awesome scene. And they charge down the hill. They charge down the hill.
Yeah, using the light behind them to blind the orcs.
Yeah, they just start slaughtering. Well, also too, like where Aragorn and Theoden, he tells Theoden because they're trapped, and it's like, all right, this is the end, and then Aragorn's like, ride out with me, and like Theoden gives like a pretty cool speech, like that was such a cool scene where it was like them and a couple of the like the Rohirrim, like they just ride out to meet all them. Like those scenes are just
Like Théoden has so many of the best lines in like the trilogy. Like you get, what kind of pair like no child should have to bury their son. The speech up before the battle, like where was the horse and the rider? It's for this movie. Like he had so many of the best scenes.
yeah.
Definitely a great character. But I guess to get back to the Battle of Helm's Deep, obviously a great battle, but I do want to mention the elves.
I guess we could talk about some of the stuff that's different from the book to the movie, and we could start with that. There's no elves in the movie. There's no elves at the battle.
Because I mean, I feel like it works for the movie because it kind of gives you like, there's hopelessness. Oh, maybe they're going to turn the tide of the battle. Oh no, they're getting hurt, but now they might turn the tide of the battle. So that's what the elves kind of did, made give you hope that they might actually survive the night. But I don't know. I guess I prefer the little bit of helplessness. But one of Peter Jackson's ideas that they quickly told him no on, which was a great decision on the people told him no. He wanted Arwen to fight at the Battle of Helm's Deep,
Oh,
which I think would be a horrible decision.
I think she'd be a little out of place there.
Whoever told him no, that was a great decision because that would have been really stupid.
And I know in the movie when Aragorn accidentally gets attached to one of those like four-legged creatures and it goes off a cliff. That was not in the book. I know that much.
That's another thing I didn't like too because they said they made that change so somebody could alert the Rohirrim that an army is coming towards them, but people have scouts and cavalry. I mean, you could have done the same thing with like, I don't know, maybe I don't know, some person just going by on a horse, seeing the army and reporting back. You don't need Aragorn to report that. Plus, it feels like it's pointless too, because like everyone, oh no, he's dead, he's gone, even though he came back like immediately. Like it was no, it's like a fake out. There's no real like worry that he's actually gonna die.
And I know that the book, 'cause I saw a video on this where it had like what's the difference, and the first half of the book is either with like Frodo and Sam, and then it goes the second half is with Gimli and everyone else, or is it vice versa?
No, you're right, but like again, like for a movie, you kind of have to
You have to cross
like
cut it and whatnot.
yeah, which I don't think anybody really complained about. At least you'd hope not.
And
Uh,
Sherlock's lair is supposed to be in this movie, like in the book at least. It's in the second. All that stuff is in the second book,
Oh
not in
yeah,
the
because we could
third
talk about
movie.
Faramir, some of the changes they made to him.
It's all yours.
Well, yeah, because in the book, and I feel like again, I think he's okay for the movie, but I guess for an adaptation, some of the changes weren't that great because they said, they wanted Faramir to be more tempted by the ring to kind of give him some sort of development, but I feel like part of the reason it works better in the book is like Faramir was never tempted by it to kind of show the difference between him and Boromir. Boromir was more warlike, like he liked to fight, while Faramir was more of like the scholar, the more gentle one. He didn't care much for fighting, but did it because he had to. And was much, wiser. Like he definitely took more after like Gandalf than his father and Boromir. So I feel like that difference that kind of was lost in the movie. Like he was wise enough to not take the ring or even be tempted by it, and kind of send Frodo off on his way, which I guess not that exciting, but I didn't really think it was necessary to drag him to Osgiliath.
it seems at last we finally understand each other.
Yes, and praise his gardeners.
Oh, what are you, his bodyguard? I'm his gardener. He was so proud of it,
He
but
was a good gardener.
that he was. But I also just wanted to quickly touch on because I can't believe we didn't mention this, but um, from the first one and then into this one because the joke where at the end of the first one, like when the bridge broke in the mines and they're jumping, and Gimli, no one tosses a dwarf. And then at the Battle of Helm's Deep, him and Gandalf, not Gandalf, Aragorn went around the side to help fight off the Uruk-hai so they could fortify one of the doors. And then Gimli's like, toss me. Aragorn's like, what? He's like, toss me. We could take him. And then he's like, don't tell the elf. That was always one of my favorite jokes. That that too, or the scene when Legolas failed to stop the suicide bomber Uruk-hai, and the wall got blown up and Aragorn got launched, and like the Uruk-hai were flooding in, and then Gimli just without even thinking just jumps into the crowd to save Aragorn. Like that's a like
Not the
especially in the
wisest decision, but
but you see where his heart is. But I always but that was also especially in this one, you see definitely the friendly rivalry between Gimli and Legolas was that was always a great one. They're literally they're so good. They're counting how many they're killing in the middle of the fight and comparing with each other.
and Gimli wins despite starting at a disadvantage.
Oh yeah. What was the total kill count?
It was like 42 to 41 or like 43 to 42, something like that.
Yeah,
He won by one, but he still won.
yeah.
Wins a win.
But that was just another like those moments like where they have a heart. Like you see the chemistry in the between the characters and stuff. Like the movies really did a good job of touching on that. But
I was gonna say too, like we continue talking about like this side of the story, like Eowyn. I feel like, Eowyn's scenes were actually good compared to Arwen because they kind of serve a purpose. And Puck, like, they show like her character, like how she, wants to fight. Because like there's also that scene where she gives Aragorn like she made food for him and it was so bad because she doesn't probably doesn't spend much time cooking because she likes to fight. I thought that was a good scene. Kind of showing where her mind is at and foreshadowing, I guess.
Is there anything else,
yeah,
Better
Craig,
than
that you don't
Boromir.
like? 'Cause I know you want to talk about the differences.
Well, there was one thing which they didn't include in the movie, but thank God someone told Peter Jackson no. They were gonna have a scene of Eowyn fighting in the glittering caves. When everyone's the caves that they were hiding in. They wanted to have her like fighting off like a pack of orcs, which I didn't think would have been a good idea. Just
But
someone telling him no, bad idea.
I feel like Peter Jackson's a lot like George Lucas in the sense that they come up with these weird ideas, and then at least in the original trilogy for Star Wars, someone would say to him, "Yeah, I don't know about that, George. I wouldn't do that."
I mean, these are just stuff we know. Like, I don't know what else that he maybe said and people quickly told him no, like much earlier on in the story. But like these are like bigger ones because there is footage of Awen fighting the Glittering Caves, but it never made any extended cut. It never made any theatrical cut. Oh, but the one
Really?
with Arwen fighting at Helm's Deep, people say you can like see her in the background of one shot of her fighting. I've never seen it, but apparently if you look hard enough, you can find her. I don't know.
Really? So they actually shot her there?
Yeah, no, they shot scenes of it.
I did not know
Yeah,
that.
I that would have just felt so out of place.
Yeah, just
Her just magically showing up and fighting like with the other elves.
like why is she even there
Yeah,
fighting
they're
it?
they're they're set photos. She's wearing like a red cloak. Yeah, she was there. Wow, that's nuts.
And the best part too, those elves came from Lorien, not from Rivendell.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they fought together at Helm's Deep.
Stupid.
that would have been yeah.
Because like they're really trying really hard to give her her scenes. I'm like, this is not her story. Like she's just not in it.
So the one screenshot that looks like that is saved is it's her on a white horse behind Carl Urban, and she's wearing like bright red, or not bright red, but like she's wearing red.
Yeah, not a good idea. Thank God someone told him no.
Huh? Did not know
And I
that.
guess covering more differences. I feel like it works in the movie, but in the book, like the Ents knew what Saruman was doing the entire time. Like I wasn't surprised when they saw him cutting like all the trees missing. Like they knew what was happening, and they were debating whether or not to fight. It wasn't like Pippin tricking them into seeing, oh no, he destroyed all the trees. Like they knew from the beginning, and they were just the Ents were like they don't really fight. They don't really, it's not. They don't feel like it's their war, but
So
they were
apparently,
deciding.
not to harp too much on the Arwen stuff, but apparently what made them change it was that it got leaked online that Arwen was at the Battle of Helm's Deep, and then there's like a public outcry for it, and then they changed it.
Yeah, it was the right thing to change. It would have been really stupid.
Yeah, seems like a wise decision to do that.
Like even though they cut out Eowyn, like that would have made more sense because she's like her being there, it's her her people and everything. Arwen is just like why why are you there? Just be so out of place.
Again, like they try to give her so many scenes, I guess, to. But I feel like having her fight isn't going to enhance the love. Like even if she was there, like how does it enhance like their love story if she is there?
Because they fought together, Craig.
But she's not a fighter. I mean, even then, like if she was there fighting, like how does that help advance the love story?
Because they're fighting together. Jeez.
So that doesn't mean anything.
Oh my god, you imagine, Craig, if they instead of Gimli jumping into the crowd of Urukai, it was her.
Oh God.
Probably was, honestly.
It'd been funny if like her stunt double was just some jack dude with a wig.
I mean, like a, but he still had a
Yeah,
beard.
yeah. He's just wearing like a red tank top, not even like the cloak she was wearing. He's all tatted
I
up.
got you, my love.
Oh
Come here,
yeah.
get your hands off my man.
Oh yeah.
It's literally just Macho Man Randy Savage jumping into
Come
a
here,
pile of orcs.
Oops.
Come here, jabroni.
Yes,
Anything
but thank
else?
God.
Craig?
Well, again, it's a good movie. Just again, I feel like you being in the middle. I can't doesn't want to say it hurts it, but it's not really a complete movie. I mean, they do their best to try and make it a complete movie. You start, you end on a hopefulness. Frodo going towards Mordor, and all the Rohan stuff kind of resolved, even though not really yet. But you know what I mean? Like they try to set up like have like a basic structure for the movie. Not as perfect, but I feel like it works because it's kind of in the middle. Still a
Also,
good
to
movie.
the oh yeah, and also to the Battle of Helm's Deep and the action scenes are phenomenal.
And continuing the good run.
They're pretty good, I would say. Yeah, yeah. They said the least one I watched. I remember when I watched last year, it was pretty good. Pretty good. Final thoughts on this one?
Colin, I think the reason you haven't watched as much, especially in more recent years, is ever since Star Trek Into Darkness came out, you've been just too consumed with that.
I don't think that's true, but
Independent fact checkers say otherwise, Colin.
oh, guilty as charged.
You caught me.
Anything, Craig? Anything else you want to say?
No, I mean, I think that's it for now.
All right, because once we move on, we're not going back. We're not backtracking.
I know. I'm ready.
We're not going there and back again, Craig.
Oh God,
Could we kick him?
I'm about to.
You imagine if that's a joke in like the new Lord of the Rings series?
Oh, they'll probably have something like that.
Yeah, I heard of a group of other hobbits going there and back again. Just look at the
We're waiting
camera.
for the return of our king.
Man, those trees look like two towers.
What is this? Some kind of Fellowship of the Ring?
Oh God, stop giving them ideas.
Look at all these lords on their rings.
So let's segue into the third and final movie, the one that was nominated and won all 11 Academy Awards. It swept the Oscars that year. The Return of the King.
Don't people say it won all those awards? Not I guess for the movie, but for the trilogy.
Yeah, that's probably because I know the second one didn't win a lot. So that this one's like definitely won it for all the trilogy. But I would say it's pretty well deserving of this one. And we'll obviously talk about some of the changes it made from source material to this. But this is always the second one I watch the most. It's the longest theatrical cut. It's 210 minutes.
The extended's almost 4.5 hours.
Yeah, the extended is 252 minutes. So it's actually 4 hours and 12 minutes, Craig. So,
Well, almost 4.5, close enough.
yeah.
Might as well be that long.
Yeah, really. Come on, man.
Trying to be professional over here.
Craig, you want to take us off? You want to?
All right, so we continue the journeys of our heroes from their two different storylines. We have Frodo and Sam continuing their journey to Mordor and eventually destroying the ring, while we have our heroes from Rohan splitting off but still coming to the aid of Gondor, which is going to be under siege and under attack by Sauron's forces, and eventually repelling the forces and saving the day. Not everyone gets a happy ending.
Yeah, for the most part, everyone does. But I
Well,
think what I was going to say for when we're talking about the Fellowship of the Ring was, you really do feel like throughout the trilogy that you were part of the journey, and that's what makes the ending so bittersweet when it finally ends. You're like, oh man, it's over. No other movie really has that effect where you just feel so sad at the end, where it's over and there's nothing else after it. I think that's
I
probably
think,
why I liked it so much.
It's gone. It's finally gone.
but I feel like what helps with that too is they kind of tie everything up too. So like, it's just done. Like, there's nothing more you can really do, and life just goes on for the rest of all the characters.
Yeah, it's hard
Yeah,
to believe this came out 19 years ago of this recording.
I know everything holds up so well,
I know.
especially to like. I mean, I guess we're skipping to the end, but like Frodo's really bittersweet ending where He helped save the day, but at the cost of like his sanity and his life, essentially.
and his finger.
Well, yeah, but that too played. Just
He
the
got
fact
it. He
that
got it back.
No, he
I don't
didn't.
think he did.
No, he didn't.
Uh,
Yeah, it
You
probably fell into the lava.
you okay over
It's
there,
gone.
guy?
I thought you could see at the end like he had it back.
No, I
Well,
think if you look closer, there's like a stump.
yeah.
Uh,
There's
anyway,
magic, but not like magic healing like that.
they could have used Khan's super blood.
Oh, stop.
No.
But yeah, no, like to piggyback off what you're saying, Khan. Like when you're like especially at the end, when they're Frodo's leaving with Gandalf to go to the Undying Shores. Uh, like especially when he says goodbye to Sam, like that. That's like it is a tough scene because you actually you watch this, you were so invested in it. And like when they finally say goodbye, it is like tough to actually watch.
Real
But
quick, I looked it up on the internet, and Frodo never gets his finger back. Just want to throw it out there.
all right, I was
Even if he
wrong.
did get it back, what would he do with it? I
I
mean,
was wrong.
You know, I'll keep it in a jar.
make a necklace of the bone.
All right, sorry, Daniel. Continue. I was just looking on different
No,
pictures.
but no, it's just like saying like how they wrapped it up. They did a great job wrapping everything up, but it's still like at the end you are sad to see, especially like Frodo go and like when he says goodbye to Sam, like it truly is like heartfelt, and it actually is like it's built up, it pays off. There's heart to it. It's not like it wasn't the relationship was actually there.
I think I saw somewhere that filming the end scene with Frodo and Sam and all of them, like Frodo saying goodbye, they filmed that 3 times. And the first time they filmed it, it was either Sean Astin forgot his buttons on his jacket from lunch, so they had to refilm it. And then the second time they filmed it, it was out of focus. So then they
Does
did
that
it.
happen?
I don't know. You usually have like a that shouldn't happen. You have a focus puller usually, but it was out of focus, and they filmed it a third time. So, little fun fact that I read.
I also know too, like I watched like the behind the scenes, like the last I think scene that they filmed for the entire trilogy was Frodo when he was finishing up his book and he was monologuing. I think Peter Jackson had him like keep doing that scene over and over again because he like didn't want to stop filming because it was like tough for him to like actually wrap it up.
I think that might have been Elijah's last day.
Oh yeah, that's what it was. I'm sorry. It was
Yeah.
Elijah's last day filming, so it was
Apologize
like it
to our
was
10 viewers.
yeah. But it was like it was tough for like Peter Jackson to like actually end it. Oh, you like I appreciate that about the movie, like where they care about as much as like we did, like watching it and stuff.
Yeah, I think we can only praise the movie so much. So let's get into some of the stuff that we don't like. And that's not to say we don't like the movie. I think it's unanimous that we like the movie. It's really
We
good.
can still continue praising it. I mean, what about the scenes with Shelob?
Oh, I like that stuff too. I'm just saying, like, you could only praise something so much.
Let him go, you filth.
Yeah,
Yes, yeah, I'm coming
that
to the
scene was
rescue.
always awesome. That was
And the
actually,
music was perfect.
oh yeah, 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 that was awesome. And when Frodo, not Frodo, Sam carries Frodo on the peaks of Mount Doom up to it. It's
All the
like
way up the
I
mountain.
can carry you. Yeah,
Yeah. Or when Sam like when Frodo gets taken by the orcs up to that tower and Sam has to go rescue him and he takes on a couple of the orcs.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the love for his master, stronger than the temptation of the ring. Will do
Or
whatever it
the
takes.
but what I was saying before that I couldn't say until this movie was Colin, you were saying at Saruman how he wasn't seen like once Isengard fell. Because he dies in the movies, but it's only in the extended version do they actually show it. Because in the theatrical, they
he gets
don't
like
even touch on
stabbed
it.
by the worm guy.
Grima,
Yeah,
yeah, and yeah, so he gets because they actually were talking with him because he was all the way on the top of his tower and he wouldn't come down, and Legolas, no, not Legolas. They were talking with him, and then so Grima stabs him in the back, and then Legolas shoots Grima. But the point I was making is behind the scenes, actually, um, when he gets stabbed in the back, Peter Jackson wanted Christopher Lee to do it a certain way, but Christopher Lee, I think he was in. I think he served in a World War or something. He was in like military, but he actually got
Couldn't be World
stabbed
War
in the back.
One.
And he actually got stabbed in the back in real life. So he actually told Peter Jackson, like, no, like when you get stabbed, you don't react like that. You react like, like you gasp. So like his reaction, actually, he that was his own from his own experience. Like he told Peter Jackson, like, no, 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 this is how you'd react when you get stabbed in the back. I was like, oh wow,
Yeah,
just a cool side note.
he met Tolkien. I think Christopher Lee. He was the only one out of all those actors to meet him.
Although he never really, did he ever describe how? Because I've always seen that story, but did they ever describe how he met him? Like, was it just like at a pub one time? He's like, "Oh hey,
Hey,
hi,"
maybe
and
I don't know.
that was it. I mean, he never really went into details, so I'm
I
assuming
mean,
it was like
did you ever meet Tolkien? No, I don't think so. Shut up.
I'm just saying it must have been like in a passing moment. Like it was never
Because
like, oh, we had this huge sit down.
Christopher Lee, I think at the time of these movies was like 80. Like he was old when these movies came out. I think so, right?
I mean, he was probably the oldest like main actor.
He was up there. I know.
Now he's in the ground. Sorry, I couldn't help myself.
I did want to say like this is probably like the one scene, like any extended scene, I feel like had to be in the main movie. Just I felt like cutting out Saruman's death just kind of does the movie disservice because you see two movies of him, I guess, building him up, how he's this horrible person, then you kind of just like there's no closure to his, his
Yeah, he
character.
just disappears.
yeah, like
It doesn't really work.
that
And
always
like what
did.
happened to
Yeah,
Saruman?
like
Again, just
like
like
if they
God.
like not showing what happens to Grima, okay, but like Saruman, he was the main villain. He was their antagonist for these up to this point.
Like more so
So
than Sauron in the first two movies.
yeah. Well, Sauron, yeah, he becomes that in this movie, but like, especially because it would have been one thing if Saruman like was kind of like how Sauron was like you're just kind of searching for it, but you're not really getting involved. He was very personal with them. Like he was interfering with them directly, raising
Yes,
up
again.
armies and stuff.
So like cutting out his death, I don't know, didn't really do the movie I think it did a disservice cutting it out. And again, it's
I,
only like 7 minutes. Like I don't know why you couldn't add 7 more. The movie's so long as is. Just throw that in there.
I laugh about it now, but I remember like when we all first saw this in the theaters, we all were kind of like, when
We
the
were very young when
ring,
we saw it, just for
yeah, but when the ring goes onto the lava, but it doesn't melt right away, it's like on like some floating piece, and it just wouldn't drop. We're like, oh my god, when will it go down?
remember your brother was saying like this movie it's the movie that wouldn't end because it's so long.
Yeah. But like I laugh at that now, but like I remember like we first saw it, like, oh my god, just die already.
But now like we were saying before, now you don't want it to end, so
I'm sure, like, I don't know if I remember this or maybe I'm misremembering, but like, I know I read somewhere that some people, I guess, didn't read the book. Like when Frodo says the ring is mine, it says a bunch of people apparently like got up and were like, "No, no!"
like people who like is casual fans.
Yeah, because you do get that feeling like you're so invested and they're so close, and just like Isildur in the first movie, they succumb to to the the temptation.
Especially at the end, like not only did Sam carry him up the mountain, but also Gollum attacks them too. So you have
Yeah.
that fight scene like
He like
going
hurled
on.
a rock at Gollum's face.
Yeah. I remember like when we first watched it and he bit off Frodo's finger. I was like, oh god.
See, their mercy of Gollum ended up helping them in the end.
No, it didn't.
I feel like most movies, most movies like you gotta like basically overpower the person, like basically put them
No,
at your mercy.
it did, Colin, because Frodo would have left. He would have left with the ring and never would have gotten
Oh yeah,
destroyed.
yeah, that's true. That's true.
Gollum indirectly, directly interfering indirectly
Maybe
got it
Sam should
destroyed.
just pull them, like just push them off, end it.
See a chump.
No, because like in most movies, like very rarely do the good guys win through like mercy and like actual doing good. Like most people's like, oh, I'll just kill this person, like shoot them in the head, and like, oh, day saved. It's
Like
nice to see a
Optimus
movie
Prime.
committing war crimes or something. I don't know, it's just nice to see people doing good in
Yeah.
movies because everybody's like so pessimistic and nihilistic.
Yeah, and also like another scene that I absolutely loved was when Sam and Frodo are sitting on the rock after like the volcano erupts, and like Frodo's reminiscing about the Shire and everything, and then you feel so bad for Sam in this moment because we didn't touch on it, but Sam liked this one girl, Rosie Cotton. Was it Rosie Cotton?
Yeah,
Back at the Shire, there was this one girl he really liked, but he never had the courage to go up and talk to her. And so he's, sitting there crying, saying like how if he, he wish he had the chance to marry her and stuff. And so like you really like it's those moments you're like, oh man, like you really are tied to these characters. And like at the
wait,
end, like when he finally,
it's just sad too because like they're accepting their death. I mean, they assume they're
yeah,
gonna die. Like they don't think any rescue's coming. They're like,
yeah,
yeah, we're stuck up here. That's it.
We're
Happy feet on
dying.
things. Yeah.
yeah, and like they're like, I'm glad, I'm glad to be with you, Samwise Gamgee, here at the end of all things. I always love that line. But also to um the ride of the Rohirrim on Gondor. That
Oh
battle
yeah.
scene is awesome.
It always gives you
And then
goosebumps listening to
I
Theoden's
know,
speech.
yeah, ride. And then was it Mary was with Eowyn in the ride of the Rohirrim?
Yeah, because like they're saying like, yeah, this is kind of like a suicide mission, but we're doing it anyway because it's the right thing to do. I think what was it the key like when Aragorn left um to go to the past the dead, he was saying like, yeah, this is we're all probably gonna die. Not really inspiring hope in his troops, but he's just being brutally honest, like, yeah, we're all gonna die. Oh well, we're still gonna go and fight.
And then they they were winning that battle because again they got Gandalf was at Gondor with Pippin because Sauron thought he had the ring because he looked at the orb.
Yeah, the Palantir,
Yeah, and they were dealing with the steward Boromir's dad. What was his what was his name?
Denethor.
Yeah, he was a real scumbag. Like I remember watching it. Like he was another guy. Like I hated him. Like him being on screen. Like credit to the actor for like being able to pull that off. Like where you hated this guy. He was a complete scumbag to Faramir. He didn't really care about the city. He just cared about his power. And then like so when he finally like he gets set on fire after he tried to burn himself and Faramir alive, and Gandalf's horse kicked him. And then like
Yeah, that was
he
an
jumps
awesome
all
scene.
yeah. Like you were so pumped like when Gandalf showed up to save Faramir. Like you're like good. Well,
That's the
yeah.
thing. Like I feel like Denethor works in the movie, but like as a character, like he's not. It's not that accurate. Like in the books, like his main thing was he just felt defeated. Like he felt like we have no shot at winning this. This is so hopeless. Why do I even bother fighting? Because we know we're all gonna get slaughtered. Because like he was doing his job. Like he was trying to like get the city ready, like get its defenses ready. The beacons were lit by the time they got there. Because that scene that people love in the movies that actually already happened. I guess the whole thing was because he was like staring into the Palantir and just like, again, he just felt so hopeless and felt so defeated. Like, 'cause Sauron was like putting images in his head of like his massive army that's going to wipe out Gondor and kill everybody. Yeah, because in the book it made it seem like he was just a little more evil, a little more power hungry, which wasn't entirely. I mean, he didn't like Aragorn, but he felt more just defeated. Although he
Yeah.
didn't
No,
like Faramir, which was
yeah.
true. He definitely preferred Boromir.
Yeah. And like you did feel bad for Faramir. Like he was just trying to earn his father's approval the whole time. No matter what he did, it was never good enough. He literally rode out like on a suicide mission.
Boromir would have done better.
Yeah.
I feel like he worked just definitely not, definitely. I guess of all the characters they changed, I feel like he was probably the least accurate, at least not changed for the best.
Yeah. I did love I really liked Gandalf where he took on like he became like general of the city and the army like to set up the like their final defense.
Commanding the troops.
Yeah. And the I remember when they broke through with that giant battering ram, like it was like carved like a wolf,
Oh, yeah, I
and it
like
was
the
like
orcs when they were
flaming.
chanting like "Grond, Grond, Grond."
But I remember I was just like, oh god, like remember when they broke through and they're like, oh, Gandalf has given them speech like, be, stand your ground, be prepared, and then you just see a bunch of armored trolls come flooding in, just start tossing everyone. It's like, oh my god, like you see like one troll just like completely like took his like nailed club and just completely crushed a guy with it.
Because that was a change from the book, which I do prefer the book version, where when they break down the gate of Gondor, the Witch King comes in and basically threatens Gandalf, but Gandalf's standing his ground, ready to face off against the Witch King. Because in the movie, like it's when Gandalf's running up to save Faramir, the Witch King comes and kind of like catches him off guard and destroys his staff for some reason. I don't know. I think it was cooler in the book where he stands his ground, basically showing he's not afraid of the Witch King and ready to stand up to the army.
Yeah. Well that scene was just cut out in the theatrical version because I remember like when you get to the final battle when they're out beside the Black Gate and you're just like, where's Gandalf's staff? And like they completely just cut that out. But in the extended version, as you were saying, the Witch King just broke it.
I didn't even realize that. I assumed he still had it.
No, he the Witch King in the extended version, I think it was only in the extended version he shattered it.
I know
Like you were
that, but like I didn't know that it was missing.
Yeah, because I think at the end when they charge, when Aragorn or Frodo and they start charging, you just see Gandalf running with only a sword. He didn't have a staff with him.
Oh,
Because I always wondered, I was like, "Where's his staff?" But they never showed it in the theatrical version. What happened to it?
makes sense now. Still, that's I guess that's another positive thing about the trilogy. Like you can rewatch and still like catch them you didn't see the first time. In most movies, like you see the one time, that's definitely enough. Like you keep watching this to definitely find something new. Like I didn't know that. I guess next time I watch it, I'll notice it.
I like the when Aragorn goes to get to summon the army, the undead army. I always like that scene, like where the leader tries to threaten him, and Aragorn catches his sword with his sword and grabs him by the throat, like threatening him. Like it was nice to see like Aragorn like stepping into like his role of future king.
Yeah, because this is the movie where he finally, he's done being the ranger. He's going to become the king with his new sword. I think it's Anduril, something like that. But I know that's like a criticism of the movie, like the Ghost Army, how they wiped out the armies of the orcs and the host of Sauron. Which I guess it cleans up the battle a little neatly because in the books he summons like he gathers an army from like southern Gondor and goes up the river. He steals the Corsair ship and goes up the river and fights. So I guess the Ghost Army makes it a little neater. I guess it works in the movie, but not the best for the adaptation.
I was gonna ask you, Craig, because I'm trying to remember this. When they talked at the mouth of Sauron, was that in the extended version or was that in the theatrical?
I was in both.
Yeah,
It was okay.
No,
I
actually, that might be in the.
extended, right?
Was it?
Because
I don't remember.
if I remember correctly,
I know he
and
taunts them. He like
I've
taunts
been
them.
wrong before. I was saying that because when I think in the theatrical version, Aragorn calls,
Aragorn.
he calls out, he calls them out, and then it shows the gate opening and them riding back. I could be wrong because I know like that scene with the mouth of Sauron, like he taunts them, he throws the Frodo's fleece at them, and then I
Mithril.
was what?
Mithril.
Yeah, Michelle.
Yeah, it does not appear in the theatrical cut. That's in the extended.
Yeah, because I always thought like they would, they Aragorn calls out, and then the gates open, and then the army surrounds them. Because I always love that scene when they were talking with the mouth of Sauron, and then Aragorn just he gets so frustrated, he just walks up and cuts his head off, and then Gimli goes, "I guess that concludes negotiations."
See, I did not like him cutting the head off because I feel like again it feels more like a modern movie where they just kill indiscriminately. You know, they were kind of having like peaceful. You don't really kill the messenger. That's just me.
I just it was I thought it was a cool like Aragorn scene like where he's fed up, like he shows how much he cares for like Frodo and them, and then he rides, he says to um Gandalf, and he goes, I will not believe it, like I cannot, like he was like keeping that hope alive.
Oh, that part was fine. Just you don't really kill a messenger. That's
Oh yeah,
even if he is from the enemy.
you spoken with a messenger of Sauron, you know.
Well, no, but it's, again, these are like historical stuff. Like you don't. It's
Yeah,
very bad practice
not oh
to
yeah,
kill messengers.
yeah, no, I got it.
I guess we should talk
Yeah.
about one of the potential changes that they almost had, where wasn't like Sauron supposed to fight while they're distracting the army, so
Oh
saving
yeah,
Frodo.
at the Out of the Black Gate. Yeah,
Yeah,
they shot, and this was shot too. Like they shot scenes where Sauron would come down like in a physical form and fight Aragorn, and that was going to be in the theatrical cut. But then they realized in post, like, oh, this is a horrible idea. Someone told Peter Jackson, like they whacked him, and they told him bad idea. Then they CGI'd the troll in, and that's what you see Aragorn fighting. It's supposed to be Sauron, but he's actually fighting the troll. Thank God they changed it that because I think they wanted because they for some reason they wanted to make like it personal between Aragorn and Sauron when it's not personal at all. Like,
Yeah,
to Sauron, Aragorn just another human. I mean, he's a threat, sure, but he's not like a personal threat.
and
Like Sauron's
also
older than time.
yeah, I was gonna say like how many years had passed between Aragorn's ancestor and
Sauron?
Sauron. Yeah,
That's like 3,000 years.
yeah. Just every day he's like foaming at the mouth to get Aragorn.
But if anything, Sauron had more of a hatred for elves than humans. And granted, I'm not saying he had to like Aragorn. He was definitely a threat because he could reunite, the Arnor and Gondor, but it's not a personal threat.
Yeah, it's now if Michael Jordan was playing Sauron, that's different.
Everything's
But also, since we're talking about big differences, the ending they cut out another battle
yeah, the
where
scouring
they
of the Shire.
yeah, because that was Sauron actually went after them.
Yeah, Saruman.
Yeah.
Because yeah,
I
so
don't mind
that
that change though.
No, I don't mind it either. I'm just saying it is a huge part of the ending they cut out.
see, I feel like it works for the movie, but I feel like as an adaptation, it kind of hurts the story because the whole ending was kind of showing how the hobbits kind of grew up and they can kind of fight for themselves now. Well, this it's kind of just like they're still little, I guess, childish. Like Pippin kind of grows, but like at the scouring of the Shire, he helps lead the charge to kick all the people out of the Shire.
I wouldn't
Because
say
this
they're childish at the end of the movies. Like when they're back
no
in the Shire, they're so out of place from what happened to them. Like you see
no
them in their
I think that's what Craig was saying is if they had that in there as like to show the progress they made, that now they can actually do a battle like when someone
Because
comes knocking on their doorstep.
it works better in the books too. Because you see, like the first, when they're trying to get to Rivendell, like they're so lost, they have no idea what they're doing. They're constantly needing help from people. Now at the end of the movie, they're finally doing things on their own. Like they don't need Gandalf, they don't need Aragorn. It's just them saving the day themselves this time.
I
Because
guess that
isn't
makes sense.
that's in the book? That's where Saruman actually dies, right?
Yeah, I know
Yeah,
that much. Yeah.
Yeah.
he dies in Bilbo's house because he tries to stab Frodo, but Frodo's wearing his mithril shirt, so then they kind of let him go, like embarrassing himself. But then Greenba ends up killing him because Greenba got sick and tired of Saruman like kicking him and treating him like dirt. Yeah,
What
'cause-
happened to Grim? What happened to Grim at the end again? That
so after he kills Saruman, he gets shot by the hobbits from arrows. Because because the Frodo didn't want to kill Saruman because he's like, you're a wizard. You used to be important. I don't want to kill a wizard in my own house.
he's a very very courteous man.
I think
Because like at the
Frodo
end,
just doesn't
Saruman
want
just
to clean up the mess in his own house.
because like, especially like in the book, like Saruman becomes like so pathetic at the end. Like he's so petty, trying to do everything he can just to screw with the hobbits because he's so mad at them for ruining his plans and stuff. Like he was much more petty in the books. Like he, like here's like something I guess many people wouldn't notice, but like I think it's in the extended cut, but like when they flood Isengard, you f- when Merry and Pippin are smoking the pipe weed. Why would Saruman have that? Because he took after, because Gandalf would smoke the pipe weed, so Saruman was doing it to kind of copy Gandalf to see why he was doing it, because he's like, why is he doing this? What's so great about it?
He's a
So
freak.
he took up smoking a pipe weed because he was trying to like copy Gandalf. He's always jealous of Gandalf.
But wasn't he was a higher up, right? In the
Yeah,
actual
he was the head
books.
of the Order.
Yeah. No, that's why Gandalf is like, I'm what he should have been.
Yeah, because Saruman would be.
Was he a Maiar too, or was he a Val? He was a
No,
Maiar, right?
all the wizards are Maiar.
Yeah,
So
they're
is
Maiar.
Sauron. Basically angels.
Well, Sauron he followed after Melkor.
So yeah, this is getting a little deep into the lore. I think we're losing Colin. Because
Yeah,
Melkor was the
I don't
first
know
Dark
anything
Lord.
about that.
Yeah, no, that's more like you'd have to read the Silmarillion to understand that back lore, because that deals with like the creation of the world and everything, and so. But well, that also too. I mean, they never established it in the movies, but like it was cut out from the books. Um, where Eru, basic, God in the books, he tripped up Gollum to make him fall into the
Oh yeah, that's the thing too. Like in the
And
books,
he just
yeah.
flips.
Gollum just falls in instead of being pushed, and he just like the thing cracks and he falls in.
But
Which
like
I guess
Eru,
I could see why they changed it because I
yeah,
guess it's not as exciting to the audience if he just slips in.
yeah. But like actually, that was like Eru actually directly interfered with it.
Yeah, and you brought back Gandalf too.
Mm-hmm. Through fire. But,
Wanted to touch
uh,
on like talked about the charger that we're hearing before. I mean, the death of the Witch King I thought was great too.
oh yeah, that was a great scene. You felt that's another thing too. Like Theoden got such a his death was brutal. Got the Nazgul launched him and his horse landed on him.
Yeah, not the best way to go out, but still he went out like a champ doing his job.
Yeah, no, that was a cool scene too. Like where you see Mary and Eowyn fighting the Witch King.
She was like defending her uncle, basically her
Yeah,
father. Like, don't
you were.
defile this man's body.
Oh yeah, she cut off the Nazgul's head. That was awesome. And
Yeah,
then
and like yeah, it's like one swing, like it basically chopped it off.
or like when and then what was it? The Witch King like he broke her arm because he hit her in the arm, or she had the shield, the wooden shield. He shattered it with the he was swinging like a mace.
Yeah, then Mary stabs in the back of the knee, and then boom, no more Witch King.
Or or in the Battle of Gondor. It has to be like a top five scene for all fans. Legolas with the elephant.
Oh yeah,
He single handedly takes it down, and then Gimli. That still only counts as one. Oh, also another thing they cut out in the theatrical, which I wish they had put in, because of how you hated this character, was the leader of the orcs with the deformed arm. He looks like a pig that they threw acid on.
oh yeah.
I forget that guy's name, but he was a scumbag, and you were like waiting for him to die. Like where they were launching the debris from the buildings, and one he just sidesteps it,
He told
like
all the people
spits
not
on
to
it.
move, but he
Yeah,
moved.
yeah, because in the extended cut, I wish they had put his death in because it was after Eowyn defeats the Witch King, so she's just like she's like she's like passed out from like exhaustion from the battle, and then he's still alive and he's trying to like grab at her, and then when he's trying to kill her, you just see Aragon and Gimli just come up and like double team him and cut him in half. I wish they kept that in. That was such a because my favorite part is they just casually did it and just kept going on. Like they didn't stop or anything, no dialogue. They just quickly dispatched him and kept moving on. I wish they
How
kept that
punk
scene
he
in there.
is.
Yeah, because to me he was like the steward of the city. Like they were just scumbags. You're hoping they would get their comeuppance.
Yeah, there's that line like this: "The age of men is over." Now it's like the age of the orc.
Ah, Jesus. You really gotta be doing that? Yeah, you got nothing to say for yourself.
All right. Can we kick
Anyway,
him?
before we were so rudely interrupted,
What are you saying, Greg?
Can we kick him?
Yes.
You lost my train of thought. What's wrong with you?
You guys are talking about the orc guy. Looks like a pig getting his comeuppance.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, I
spoke
guess now that we're in, I guess we
pagans.
could talk about like the whole trilogy and I guess how everything kind of comes together. Because that's one thing I feel like the books did better was like Gimli and Legolas's friendship. Because in the movies, I guess they don't really become friends until the end. While in the books, they kind of become friends pretty early on, and you get to see them like be friendly towards each other and like talk about like stuff they want to do together after the war. Well, I guess in the movies they're kind of antagonistic until the end, which I guess is nice, but I do prefer them being friends a lot sooner than later. That's just me.
I didn't mind it as much.
Well, I guess like, when we read in the books, I feel like it's just nicer because there's obviously more scenes with them like talking about again stuff they want to do after the war, places they want to visit. I guess I don't know, I prefer them being friendlier than it works in the movies, but just I like the books more when it comes to that stuff.
Is that so?
It is so.
Fair enough. Fair enough. What about you, Daniel?
Like the trilogy as a whole, or like things I
Hey,
wish they did differently.
maybe a little bit of both.
Hmm. I mean, like I don't know if like thinking back, like if they anything they could have done differently. Um, I I enjoyed it for well, obviously I enjoyed it. I loved it for what it was. But I get what you mean, Craig. Like they probably had more dialogue. Gimli and Legolas outside of their like rivalry, their friendly competition. I could see that, but like I enjoyed it for what it was. But I don't know. I don't really have any like complaints or any like there's like little like we talked about like little nitpicking here and there, but we kind of went over that. I'm I'm good on my end.
I would say I'd be very curious to see a strict adaptation, like scene for scene of the movies, like of the
Like
books.
like what they did with the Lion King.
Oh no, that's not an adaptation. That's just copying.
Yeah, it's like when they tell you to cite your sources and don't copy. That
Yeah, that's
You're gonna get flagged for that.
plagiarism.
No, but like
But
if you were to
Like
do like
based
an
off of
adaptation,
tokens, drawings, and stuff like that. I think it'd
yeah,
be cool to see. And I think for that you'd have to do a series. I don't think you could, like
maybe
each book is a season.
because I know we're in the age of
yeah,
adaptations and reboots, but I wouldn't want to see the in today's climate. But some future, if they actually were to do a faithful one, it would be nice to see like a TV show of it.
Yeah, I think that would be cool to see, and it would probably
yeah.
get a lot of comparison to the Jackson films, obviously. I don't know. It's nothing I have against the Jackson films. I would just be curious, as someone who's not too familiar with the source material, to see what it'd be like how Tolkien wanted it.
I would also like to. I know it's not the trilogy, but just on terms of like Tolkien's work, I would love to see them do like a live adaptation of the Silmarillion. I'd be
That
very
would be
interested in how
difficult.
it would be difficult. I'd be interested in see if they could like pull that off.
Probably not. Let's be honest.
Oh yeah, today they wouldn't.
No, yeah, no, not today. Like if they were to, if someone were to actually be like faithful to the books and not tamper with things, but it wouldn't happen today. But I would be interested to see if, like how they would pull that off.
So like you said before, like how to do like a faithful adaptation. Like I don't think you could ever really remake this when it comes to a movie. Like if you were to remake the movies, I don't. I feel like anything you do, it's gonna fall short because it's gonna be just compared to this one. Like I don't think you could really do like a movie adaptation any better than this for the most part.
Yeah,
Because any
I,
adaptation, like you're gonna run into the same problems. Like you're gonna have to cut out stuff like Tom Bombadil.
Well, not if you do
You're
it
gonna.
as like a series. If you do like
Well,
a
yeah, the TV
season.
series is different.
Yeah, yeah. Don't do it as a movie. Do it as a series.
If you're trying to make this movie, I think you're gonna run into the exact same problems. You have to cut characters, and and I feel like if you try to remake a movie, you're gonna be under pressure not to do the exact same thing as the Peter Jackson ones, and you deviate even more from the source material, try to make yourself different, which is just gonna make the adaptation worse overall. So I feel like if you're gonna remake it,
Do
I
it
think
as a
they should remake it, but
series.
do a TV series.
I would even say a remake. Just base it off like try to be as accurate as possible to the books.
True, true, true. But I feel like with people today, all they know about is the movies. So
and if they're doing a TV series, maybe they could consider like Adam Sandler's Frodo, and then like have all his castmates as the rest
Yeah,
of the
Rob
hobbits.
Schneider is Sam. David
No,
Spade is Pippin.
I could see this.
no, calling Kevin James as Sam.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, don't him and his friends like every time like a popular movie comes up, don't they do like some sort of like a knockoff of it?
probably. Gandalf is Steve Buscemi.
No, Gollum is.
Yeah, he does look like a golem. Hey, fellow hobbits.
Because
He's
what
not.
next the
He's
movie
not
came out
wearing
like
makeup or anything. It's just him.
it
Um,
was this movie that came out. It was like
it's the
Hateful
ridiculous,
Eight.
the ridiculous six or something.
Yeah, which is like a knockoff of that one.
Oh yeah, because the original movie's The Magnificent Seven.
Him and his awful, awful
The
movies.
Yeah, no, the Hateful Eight, that was Quentin Tarantino.
Yeah.
The Ridiculous Six. Oh yeah, that was another I think Netflix Sandler movie. It's no Hubie Halloween, but you know.
Oh, Jack and
It's
Jill.
it's no the wrong Missy, you know.
Oh God,
Yeah.
Jack and Jill. That I don't know what you're talking about. It's an Academy Award winning film.
I think we're getting a little off topic here, but
But yeah,
Yeah.
I don't. Like you guys are saying, I would love to see that if it's done right. But like you were saying, Craig, in today's climate,
Well, we're
no,
seeing with the Amazon adaptation how little they care about the source material. So I'm
yeah,
going
they're
against
gonna
it.
desecrate it and just pee all over Tolkien's name.
I mean, could they do any more than what they're doing with this adaptation?
You'd be surprised, Craig. You'd be surprised.
don't
Don't give
worry,
me any
Craig.
ideas.
You have to wait another 10 years, and they'll do an adaptation of this adaptation.
Oh God.
You know they will. They can't let anything rest peacefully. Not until they bring it back and destroy it.
It's like that quote, isn't it great to see all your favorite like franchises go down in flames? It feels
Feels
great.
great.
Feels great. But all
But
in all, I think this is, easily a contention for the best trilogy ever made. Great characters,
I don't even
compelling
know like
story.
what would compare to it because Star Wars, the original trilogy of Star Wars, has two good movies, and Episode Six is just a disaster. It is a mess.
none of the other Star Wars trilogies even hold hold a light to this.
Yeah, this one at least is very consistent in quality from movie to movie. And I'm not even saying that about Episode 6 like I'm a Star Wars hater. Like, Episode 6 is clearly the weakest link of the three. You
I
can't
think
really
it.
you can't really find a weak link in the Lord of the Rings trilogy.
Yeah, like you might like one more than the other, but they all work well together. Like you can't.
Yeah, there isn't one where you're just like, oh yeah, that one is the worst of the bunch.
Although you can almost call it cheating because this is one story split up into three parts, so you can almost call it cheating, but I don't think anyone cares. I'll happily have this trilogy be claimed the best trilogy title.
I mean, like some other people are gonna say the Dark Knight trilogy. I don't think
You see The Dark Knight Rises?
I don't think the Dark Knight Rises is that good.
For you.
Oh yeah, I walked into that one.
Or what? Guess what? The Indiana Jones trilogy or the original
No,
trilogy?
no. I mean,
Back to the Future trilogy.
No.
I love Indiana Jones, but no.
Yeah, like what
Back
else is
Back to
out
the
there?
Future trilogy.
Oh God,
They
Morty.
should they should have stopped after the first one. Yeah, like I mean, like other big, obviously it's not a trilogy, but I guess like one of the other big name ones that people would compare is like because it's also based off books is Harry Potter, but obviously it's not a trilogy.
I've
Yeah,
never
this
seen
is much
Harry
better.
Potter.
I've seen all the Harry Potter movies. I didn't read the books.
I
Um,
haven't seen a single one.
I, I didn't. I just never
Neither.
really cared. I just never really cared for Harry Potter. I mean, I saw the movies and stuff,
What's always
but
funny is when you go to Universal Studios and you see all those idiots waving around like $50 plastic sticks at storefronts. It's honestly hilarious. I couldn't do that. I'd be too embarrassed to do that. Even if I was a super fan, I'd feel like an idiot in public.
And don't they have like their cloaks on or whatever?
Yeah, it just looks so embarrassing.
I
Or
feel
yeah,
like
it's
if
more
it,
embarrassing. Paying
I
like
feel like
thousands of dollars to go to to these Disney like star cruises and resorts. That's embarrassing.
I was gonna say like anytime like people do like the cosplay like, but it's not like at a convention or any like they're actually like even like as a huge Marvel fan like before these last set of movies I could never like dress up as Thor and go to a movie. That would be, oh,
A little shameful.
yeah.
I mean, you're bringing a weapon with you into the movie theater if you're bringing like an actual hammer.
Or if someone showed up to a Godzilla film dressed as Godzilla and they like bring a lighter and like gasoline.
They bring like an axe spray can and they have a lighter at the end.
Well, I guess after this last one, you might see people dressed up as apes carrying around an axe, a battle axe.
Or
Yeah,
bring a pet ape.
we're getting a little off topic, but last thing, I never understood those cosplay conventions, especially when someone would dress up as like Deadpool and then bring real swords with them. It's just-
Or the worst thing with Deadpool is like every time I see like convention pictures, there's like a million Deadpools. It's so
yeah,
annoying.
yeah.
But
Also, I have one
I
fact I forgot to mention before. Our boy, Vin Diesel, auditioned for Aragorn. I don't think he's ever considered, but could you imagine if he was playing Aragorn?
Well, Sean Connery was
uh,
also going to be Gandalf, but he said he didn't understand it.
I'm just saying, imagine Vin Diesel playing Aragorn.
Can you imagine Vin Diesel and Sean Connery like running around in that movie? You shall not pass.
you
I
just
mean, he, he,
imagine
he
like
would be
all of
Gandalf better than Mr. Family Man over there.
you imagine like all of Aragon's like top lines
Yeah.
just like mumbled in that low growl voice.
For Frodo!
Vin, we need you to wear like an actual armor. Like you imagine, and he charges out with a Corona and a white beater.
And a wrench instead of a sword.
And then he like holds back 15 orcs by himself. Corona bottle cap.
One family to rule them all.
Yeah.
guess we're
But
reaching the end.
Yeah,
yeah.
it's
But I strongly recommend all these movies if you haven't seen them already.
And just for
Watch
fantasy
them.
fans or action, just for anybody, I think most people will get something out of it and enjoy it.
Yeah. Because that's the thing, like the music, the story, the characters, dialogue, acting, action, it's all there.
They're top notch.
all right. One last sentence each because we're running out of time. Was
Uh,
that it?
it's
One
perfect.
last.
Watch it.
Daniel.
Yes, I second
Yes.
that.
Yes. Yes. I third that. Pretty good stuff. Holds up today. Well, that's been the unbiased opinion. I'm Colin.
I'm Craig.
And I'm not Vin Diesel.
That's right. That's right.